Welcome everyone to this week's edition of Military Trailblazer Office Hours. Thank you for taking time out of your Wednesday evening to spend it here in the spirit of community, mentorship, and learning. I'm your host this evening, Gerholdt, and I am a customer success manager at Salesforce and a military trailblazer. Each week, we invite a co-host or co-hosts to take part in the conversation so that we can leverage their experience, expertise, and unique perspectives. The focus for tonight's session is the value of being a Salesforce content creator. So if you've ever been curious about the benefits of creating content, this is definitely the session for you. You're gonna stop sharing the screen real fast. Okay, so pretty amazing co-host panel this evening. Just the sheer brain power that is in the room right now is just mind-blowing to me. So I'd like to welcome and briefly introduce our amazing co-host panel, although most of them do not need an introduction for tonight's session. Bradley Rice, Jennifer Lee, Megan Tuano, Mike Gerholdt, and Warren Walters. Bradley is the founder of both the Workforce Partner Program, Talent Stacker, and the free Trailblazer mentorship platform. Both highly successful programs focused on launching and advancing talent within the Salesforce ecosystem. He facilitates free community resources through the Salesforce for Everyone slogan, including a podcast, YouTube channel, Facebook community, and the #1 Salesforce TikTok channel with over 70,000 followers. He also has over 14 years of Salesforce experience, ranging from administrator and consulting roles to leading solution architecture practice, and even owning his own consultancy. Jennifer is the lead admin evangelist at Salesforce. She has over 10 years in the Salesforce ecosystem, a former Salesforce MVP, Golden Hoodie recipient, was dubbed by the community as the Flow Queen, is known for her release highlights, the host of the popular live stream video series called Automate This and How I Solved It, and has been a 3-time Dreamforce admin keynote speaker. Megan is a senior business analyst and product owner at Accenture Federal Services. She has excelled rapidly in her over 4-year technology career as a Salesforce consultant and business analyst, and has also notably managed and created unique content on her personal Salesforce tech career blog and YouTube channel. Mike is the Senior Director of Admin Evangelism at Salesforce. He is also the host of the highly rated Salesforce Admin podcast, owner and leader of the Admin Trailblazer community group, and social media branding expert with over 15,000 followers on X. Warren is a Salesforce developer and founder of Cloud Code Academy, a popular, innovative developer education program. He has been developing in the Salesforce ecosystem for nearly 10 years, is a prolific YouTube content creator and blogger through his other venture called Salesforce Mentor, and is a 2023 Salesforce MVP. Wow, that is a lot, and it is so great to have you all co-hosting office hours with me. Welcome.
Yeah, it's really fun. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, my goodness. That is just the laundry list of achievements of you all is just so great and so amazing. And we are so fortunate to have you all here joining us today. So it would be great if we take just a couple minutes to briefly introduce yourselves further and share your Salesforce stories. Bradley, do you want to go ahead and lead us off?
Yeah, I will. Thank you. I will make it quick because I know we have quite a few of us, and that was quite an introduction that you gave, quite the mouthful. All right, so I will just say a quick rundown about me. Grew up in the Southeast on a cattle farm. Tech job was not part of my family dynamic. So this has been really interesting sort of moving forward. My family has no clue what I do. They thought I worked on computers and printers for a while, and then I just gave up trying. So we've moved along. Done quite a few things. I really enjoy Salesforce is amazing. But if you know me at all, you know my passion is really the people, the talent, the career aspect of this and how to work that system to get where you need to go. And at the same time, while helping people along the way. So if I had advice for anyone, just get a mentor and get involved in the community. And you're going to be well on your way if you do those two things. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Always good to see you again, Bradley. Jennifer, would you like to go next?
Sure thing. Thanks for having me. So I started in financial services way back when in the marketing department, and started off as a marketing manager, then went on to be a business analyst and a technical project manager. So I was introduced to Salesforce in 2011 when I was given a project to take a business unit from one Salesforce org and move them into another. And then I just basically fell in love with Salesforce and it being so flexible to configure and do all sorts of things as an admin that I didn't want to be a technical project manager afterwards. I just wanted to do Salesforce full time. So was introduced in 2011 and grew up in the community and just love people paying it forward with all their knowledge. And then once I started picking up, I wanted to give back as well. So we'll talk more about my story later on, but yeah, glad to be here.
Awesome, Jennifer. It's a true full circle moment for me because I remember when I was brand new to the ecosystem, everyone was like, oh, you gotta view her blog. Like, you gotta go to her blog. So I very much deep dived into your stuff. So it's a really cool moment for me to just be able to really interact with someone who was such a pivotal part of me digging into the ecosystem and Salesforce. So thank you for that. Megan, would you like to go next? And can I say congratulations on your newest addition to your family? So happy for you.
He's all the way. Yep, there we go.
Love it.
A little swing for today. Thank you. Well, hey, everybody. I know a lot of people here. I'm so excited to see everybody, but I am military spouse as well. But prior to that, I was working at Syracuse University upon graduation, and then went to UC Berkeley to work as a career counselor and admissions counselor. That's when data science was first coming out. So that was like my first introduction to tech. We used Salesforce, and the reason I'm saying that as a platform, but we used Classic at the time. I joke about that. And I really liked the Salesforce platform, got certified pretty much as the intro said, within 4 to 5 years. Now I've been in the ecosystem. I balanced doing Salesforce, but ever since I faced a layoff last year, I kind of expanded to see what else is out in the tech space. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, very excited to have you, Megan, and good to see you again. Mike, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. There's a lot of people on this call. Should have dressed up. Let's see. So what wouldn't you know about me? What wasn't in the intro? I think the biggest thing is I've been doing Salesforce since 2006. So I was doing the math the other day, and I feel like my Salesforce experience would be graduating from high school now, which is scary in and of itself. But a little bit kind of background. I came from, I've sold just about everything on the planet prior to being a Salesforce admin. And all of the companies I worked for always had really hard to use CRMs. And the one that I used to work at before we had Salesforce had something called Absolute Busy. And I remember it was like one of the first web-based CRMs. And as a salesperson, you have to fill out these like incredibly long forms just to get a field added. And I went to work for a nonprofit, and they said, well, you're the inside sales coordinator, so you're in charge of Salesforce because it has sales in the title. And I remember thinking to myself, I think I'm going to go home and reevaluate all the decisions that have led me to this point, because if that's the way they think, maybe it's wrong. But having that power and having the ability to just like create a field, and I remember creating my first, I think it was like related list, where based on a pick list value of one list, it displayed certain values in another list. I felt like a god at that point. And I remember deploying my first workflow, and I was like, yeah, I can do all this. And then the juxtaposition, and probably what we'll talk about, was there was just nothing that Salesforce was talking to what I would consider an ordinary individual that knew how to do this, that didn't have any inclination to write code, and code didn't make any sense, and it still doesn't. So that's kind of where I came from, and I remember, if for anybody that's older than me, Nick Panter on Twitter answered my first tweet about Salesforce. And I remember going home and telling my mom, I was like, so there's this guy in Canada that wants me to email him his problem and he's going to help me do Salesforce stuff for free. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is bizarro world, but also awesome. So maybe I should do more of that. And that leads us to today, plus all the other stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, and perfect kind of segue, right, to code not making sense. Last but certainly not least, Warren, you are up.
Yeah, I think it's my job, my mission to start getting people away from saying it doesn't make any sense. It's crazy talk. It's only for wizards, to like, oh, it's just a couple of characters. It's similar to flows. It's similar to formula fields. But yeah, I'm Warren Walters. I have been doing Salesforce for a while, but not as long as some of the other folks on here, which is awesome. I think, we date ourselves by like, did you know classic? Did you know classic? And then, kind of going from there. But yeah, I do tons of Salesforce development things. I've worked in Salesforce for about 10 years now in various different roles, but always trying to stick on that dev sort of path, and always kind of trying to bring people along in the development path as well, because lots of people are interested in it, but potentially afraid of it because it's so different from potentially what you've been learning or what you've been going through before. But once you get the basics down, and you kind of see that it's a little bit fun to go through. Other than that, I have a cat and I like talking about Salesforce stuff. That's it.
Awesome. I still think it's kind of crazy and scary. And I have this idea that if you are good at foreign languages, you're good at code, because it is just a foreign language to me. I don't know. Maybe we should run a survey to see if that is accurate or not. But yeah, so we have just an amazing cast here today and really covers all areas. So I'm going to do just a little bit of admin now. So for those of you that may be joining for the first time, I always like to briefly explain the purpose of these office hours. So these sessions are an informal get-together for gathering with military trailblazers and allies to explore non-technical Salesforce career and branding related topics to help you achieve your professional development and career related goals. This next hour is intended to be an opportunity for a collaborative mentorship. Everyone on this call is encouraged to step up and help answer questions from your perspective. This helps provide additional diversity of experience to the answers that are given. Please make sure to keep an eye on the chat window. You probably have already seen Dave will be posting some great links for you all. There's a lot of great information that'll be in there, including learning, networking, employment opportunities. Those links also become available afterwards on the YouTube channel as well. So if you miss any, don't worry, you'll be able to catch those there. If you would like to ask a question at any point during today's session, please feel free to do so. If you don't feel as comfortable speaking up, you can also post your question in chat. The two amazing Daves will be monitoring that along with me to make sure that we get to everyone's questions as well. I'll also do my best to monitor the chat window today, and we'll also be looking at raised hands. So finally, tonight's session is being recorded. So if you'd like to share an attribution-free comment, please let me know before speaking, and I will make sure that it is edited out of the final recording. So without further ado, almost 15 minutes in, we are going to kick off some questions for you all. So we are really going to look at first the transitioning into the Salesforce ecosystem, kind of the time, effort, consistency that's required with that. So looking at how content creation can really help accelerate that journey for individuals. So I will go ahead, Megan, I'm going to have you answer this question first, and then everyone else feel free to chime in. But what are some of the challenges our new Trailblazers may experience transitioning into tech, and how can content creation help them accelerate this journey?
Yeah. So I think that's really why I started my YouTube channel back in 2022. It's crazy to say. But I think that not just starting tech, you have to learn like the technical side of it. There's a lot of things that come with it in terms of like networking, resume, LinkedIn. There's really a handful of things that go on. I helped my own husband transition from being a military cop into the tech space. And I think some of the struggles that I saw him go through, but see a lot of other people go through, is how to network, how to get back online, how to make genuine connections, how to actually connect with people, and how to get over maybe that fear of networking in person too, now that we can do that a lot more. Outside of the tech, I really think that side comes to just being committed and having a schedule. But I think those things and the commitment are really hard for people to overcome sometimes. And I think the best thing that they can do is find a community like this. Personally, going to events like this and connecting maybe with somebody that you connect with on one of the panelists today, and just reaching out and asking for 15, 20 minutes of their time, a coffee chat. I think that the connections that you make, you learn the most from other people. So that's really why I created that YouTube channel, because I think maybe I needed to start some things in my head to get through the tech space. But I think that's one of the challenges I always tell people is like, connect with people. And if I don't know the answer, they don't know the answer, we know somebody that knows the answer. So I think just getting in contact with somebody and doing that and just having those experiences to be able to talk with people.
Awesome. So I'm going to put a little different flavor on that question. And Jennifer and Mike, I'm going to come to you with this one. So what about new people, right? Like brand new into the ecosystem. A lot of times they think, oh gosh, I don't know anything. Like it's scary, it's big to post this information, and because I'm not an expert. So what advice do you give to people that are new, wanting to create content, really having that point of view and that perspective that can be helpful for others, even if you are new?
I'll start. That way it frees Jennifer up because I know she's a little under the weather. Perfect timing on the cough. So this can be daunting. And I think even just the thought of the question for somebody like me who's been doing this for a long time can be daunting of, I'm trying to learn something new in this space, and then I'm also wanting to contribute. I think the idea of contributing very much looks different for every person, but at the core, you should start with, why are you contributing and what does it give to you? So the whole point of what I started, if anybody remembers, button click admin 100 years ago, I started writing a blog, A, because I had a blog, but B, because I needed a way to document the things that I was creating and the things that I was doing, because I have a horrible memory. And that was kind of one way of putting it out there. And so I think, when people think of content creation, they think of posting publicly. I would say a lot of it and a lot of the content I've created doesn't see the light of day because I've created it for myself and then internalized it and then used it later. And so I think, if you're starting in the community and you want to get a part of it and you want to be part of the content creator community, part of that is really just creating content for yourself and then being in the community and listening. And I say that because it's so easy to think, I'm just going to walk out with like a megaphone and immediately have this super popular blog like Jennifer's or Megan's, or a podcast like Warren's that's going to blow up and like everybody's going to know who I am. And the reality is it's super noisy, but the reality is it's also exactly like a party. And if you think of, like, we just had Halloween a few days ago, it feels like, and you walk into a party, the first thing you do, you kind of greet the person at the front door. And then that's usually it. You kind of make your way around the party and you have conversations that are relevant to you. You don't walk in and like yell to the party that you're dressed as like Dracula and run around that you're dressed as Dracula and like throw cards everywhere that you're dressed as Dracula. And I think part of that content part of creating is create it for yourself and then listen to what is going on in the community and share what is relevant for you, and to package that all up into a bow. The reason you would do all of that is it's very fulfilling, one, and I see like Megan shaking her head and Warren like, yeah, it's pretty awesome when somebody walks up to you and is like, oh my God, I read the blog post and I created a workflow out of it, or I did this, and you're like, awesome. But the other part is just like, it's so rewarding to know that there's somebody else out there like you that needs to hear from somebody like you. And I think that's the most important, is like, everybody on this call is their own expert and their own reason for being there. but there's somebody else that thinks the very same thing. And so I know there's a lot of people like me. Like, I was very cognizant when I first joined Salesforce about getting up on stage and the walk up on stage and not being out of breath, because 100% of the people that see me walk up on stage have a stereotype of a fat guy's going to be out of breath, and that only proves them right. And I had to prove them wrong. But it's also rewarding because anybody else that is of size sitting in the audience sees me on stage and says, if he can do it, I can do it. And that's the same for all of us.
Yeah, the next question we cover, love that you covered it a little bit already, Mike, but some of the rewarding aspects of content creation, but we're going to go to Jennifer first. Bradley, Warren, get ready. That question is going to come to you after Jennifer speaks.
Okay, great. I have to say that for me, when I first started out in the community, I just wanted to learn, right? I didn't have a lot to post or anything. That I was just absorbing all the things that I could. The turning moment was when I was seeing posts and then I could answer them. I'm like, whoa, this is the first time that I actually know the answer to this and I can pay it forward. And so my blog just started by me just answering things that the community had posted. It was actually someone asking an automation question, and then me trying to put into Chatter or typing up my solution in a Word doc, attaching it to Chatter. I'm like, okay, this is not sustainable at all. No one can find it. It's just a one-time only thing. And so I was like, oh, how do I make this sustainable where people can go to it if they need to? Because I'm sure I'm not, the unicorn out there that only has this problem, right? Everyone or a lot of other people might have that same problem. So that's how I came up with my blog. Is it gave me a mechanism to share things that I've built, right? Because I'm figuring, hey, if I had this problem, someone else has that problem. Would love for it to pop up on Google for people to find. And I know that others before me have helped me. So it was part of just paying it forward. And it wasn't like I was out there saying, hey, I want to start my own personal brand. It was just out of wanting to give back because others had given to me. And then just, as Mike talked about, things that you stumble upon, just sharing it. Like the release highlights came out because I had to sit down and read through the release notes. And like, well, if I took notes on the stuff that I learned, why not share it with someone else who might not have the time to go through the 300 something pages of that PDF? So it's all about just wanting to share.
So a couple of things that really resonated with me and I think resonate with our crowd. One of the things that we oftentimes tell our crowd, because a lot of our military trailblazers are new and don't have a lot of experience, how can they build that experience? Is tell them, go out to the Trailblazer community, find those questions, try and answer those questions. Even if it's internally, work through that because those are real life examples. So love, Jennifer, that you touched on that as one of the ways that you started kind of putting content out there as I can answer these questions. And that really started to build your brand. Also, your release notes for admins, just the best. Plug for you. If you don't already use those, they are amazing. I use them all the time with my customers, especially those wonderful little graphics that you have that are videos of walking through things. I mean, just amazing. If you don't utilize those now, definitely check that out. So thank you. Bradley, Warren, I am going to come to you all with kind of the final question in this area, but we know that we oftentimes do things for the so what, like what am I going to get out of it? So can you speak a little bit to what are some of the most rewarding parts or aspects of content creation for you all? Oh, 2 fingers pointing, right? Who's up? Warren, I'm going to call you. Or Bradley, you're off. Warren, go. You're up.
I can talk really quickly on the rewarding aspect of it. So depending on where your content creation journey is at, sometimes you're shooting it off into the void, right? Like I've made over 250 videos of Salesforce stuff, which is really amazing. But a large chunk of that, I was just throwing it out there for the small percentage of people, right? The 5 people that are going to watch this. But every so often, you'll get those comments like folks have been mentioning that is like, this really solved my problem. This helped me push forward. This helped me pass my exam. And I think for me, I didn't start out that way, but creating those videos and creating the content, once I started to get those types of comments and messages from different people, it really helped me realize like the broader scope of the content that I was creating and all of the people that I was reaching, right? And I think there's different goals that you want to start out with, and it can potentially morph depending on where things start to go with the content that you are creating. On top of that, there are other rewards, right? So I was talking about, helping other people and how that communication starts to come back and flow back for the overall community, which is great. And then also for yourself, right? I've been able to transition a lot of the skills that I got from like video creation, writing, and blogs into different aspects of either my job or even interviewing and talking to like recruiters, hiring managers. It's super easy for me now to go to like a hiring manager and say like, okay, here's, a video that I made on XYZ topic, that your company is interested in, and they're able to see what I'm like and understand the type of code that I write or whatever I'm working on, whatever you're working on, right? They're able to actually see the work that you're doing instead of potentially guessing from your resume or needing something else to talk about it. And, I'm sure Brad can talk about this a ton too, as he does a lot of, like personal branding types of things, but there's that duality there for me where it's like, I'm helping the community out, which is great and super amazing to like see them grow with me as I'm learning this stuff. And then on the flip side of that, I'm able to reap some rewards from all the time that I've been putting in with this content for my, let's say, like personal gain in different areas of my career.
Yeah, I agree. It's that there is especially at this phase of it, right? Like I think when I started a YouTube video in 2013, 2014, maybe, created my first video. This was pre-Trailhead. And actually Trailhead is why I stopped creating videos on YouTube for a while, because I felt like I was, and maybe this wasn't true, it was a little bit of imposter syndrome, where I was creating videos about like how to create a validation rule and like stuff I'd struggled with, similar to what Jennifer had said. Like, I solved this problem. I can't be the only person who had this problem. Let me at least show people how I solved it. And like, funny story, when I say I had no clue about like the tech space, I had no clue about the tech space. Like, I was working this out. There was not a lot of places to learn. I was still in Villa Rica, Georgia, if you want to look that up on a map. And we were sitting in this office and we had a few Salesforce people, but we were all like, we were not techie people. And I was creating these videos, putting them on YouTube, and I actually stole, at the time, I stole Salesforce Ben's logo and I put it on my YouTube channel because I didn't know that you couldn't do that. Like, I Googled Salesforce images, and then this Superman looking guy with a Salesforce logo on his shirt popped up, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And then Ben actually sent me an email and said, hey, you've got my logo. And I said, oh, I am so sorry. And so anyway, yeah, kind of funny. So I took that down, and I was creating these videos, but then Trailhead came along and I realized, like, ooh, this is like really best practice. Like, there are people out here who really know how to do this stuff like correctly, to a T, to the book. They actually understand architecture and these concepts. And it kind of gave me that imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to share, right? And then I kind of refound my voice later on YouTube. Once I realized, like I said in my intro, it wasn't about Salesforce for me. It was about a life-changing career path. And I saw opportunity. I saw the people I was surrounded by. My dad was the breadwinner for our family. He was a Navy veteran, and he brought home the money for us. And I made more money 12 months into my career than he did with 35 years in his career. And I thought, this is wild. Like, it felt unfair that there was like the secret that I kind of had tripped and fallen into, and I wanted to share it. And I started sharing it with friends. And then it became this thing where like they were getting jobs and their life was getting flipped upside down. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then of course the Salesforce community, but I think I had I'm happy about it. I had the ability to not know about the Salesforce community. I just didn't know. And so we created our own little fledgling community on the outskirts of Salesforce, and people didn't know what Salesforce was in my world. So I operated in this world of telling people about Salesforce who had never heard of it. And then when I got inside the Salesforce community, it was more about telling people about Salesforce who knew all about it already. And so now that I've like bridged this gap, I still feel like it's a bubble that I sit on the edge of. And I talk to people inside, and then I talk to people who are like blue collar workers and bridge that gap for them to go like, oh, here's transferable skills, and this is how this works, and this is how other people have done it. And the reason I think, going back to the question, the content creation for, if I'm looking at entry-level people, I would be spending my time creating on LinkedIn. Like, that's just my guidance. And what I create on YouTube, maybe if you're interested and you're passionate about video content, then okay, sure. But don't create YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, you know, whatever video reels. Like, there's no need in doing that if video content isn't something you're really interested in. But to me, LinkedIn is a social media, professional social media like networking platform. And that's where you should go and spend your time. And I'll just say, like, maybe they don't want me to say this, but I'll call them out. Jonathan Smith and Bradley Glick, you can look both of them up on LinkedIn. Look at it, they're going to have the Talent Stacker logo. That's why I'm like kind of intensely know what they're doing right now. They both landed jobs this week. And I would say for anyone who's entry level, look at the content that they've created, because it's a really good example. Watch the type of content people create who are accomplishing the goals that you're looking to accomplish, right? If you watch the content I create, you might be out here trying to make TikTok videos about your career, but that's not necessary. I'm not trying to accomplish the goal that you're trying to accomplish right now. So look at people who are actively creating content that have recently accomplished the goal that you're looking to accomplish. They'll also make a great mentor, by the way. And I know a lot of people go, what? They just landed a job this week. How could they be a mentor? They're the best mentor. They know how to do it today. They didn't do it 5, 10, 15, 25 years ago. They know how to do this thing right now. So I call it coattailing sometimes, mimicking success. Look at what they did. Look at the type of content they created. Jonathan Smith, you can look at his featured content. He did like an experience project, not paid, not for a real company. He created videos about each thing that he did. He pulled it together into a series, didn't put it on YouTube, put it on LinkedIn, and has that linked up in his featured content. And if you wonder if it works, right? Because you can look and see that these are the people landing jobs right now. And Bradley Glick made this video of like a Gilmore Girls rendition for the fall kind of thing. And he likes video content. So lean into what you enjoy doing from a content perspective. If that's writing, if that's silly stuff, if it's memes, if it's whatever, find your style, find your voice. And the duality of it for you is that when you find your voice and how you can talk about your career and what you're doing, that voice is going to carry over into interviews. So you're not stumbling along through those. And when you get on the job, it's going to carry into that and the way you communicate with the community. So I know I've gone for a while, but just get out there, create something. The beauty of it is you can delete it and you can rebrand next week if you don't like where things are going.
Yeah, can I add one thing to that too?
Yeah, Warren, go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree wholeheartedly with what Brad's saying there, especially on finding your, let's say, your vehicle to express yourself, especially on the personal branding side. So like for me, I can't write to save my life, right? It's ask me to write a blog post. There's nothing's going to come out. It'll take me an entire week to put maybe a paragraph down. But if you ask me to ramble on a video and cut some of it up and turn it into something that people can actually digest and process in a hopefully meaningful and educational way, like that's my jam. And I've been making video content for a really long, I guess like 10 years now, since starting in Salesforce. So that came very naturally for me to be my vehicle to express myself and the things that I wanted to share with other people. So it is really important to figure out what you like. Of course, try them all, right? If you like blogging, if you like videos, TikToks, however you want to get it done, creating images, those types of things. And just share it, put it out there and see what happens, right? I'm sure, good things generally happen when you put yourself out there and you're sharing with others.
Absolutely. I just think of those videos on YouTube that my kids watch endlessly of people opening toys. And I'm like, wow, there's just like something to these videos that is really drawing people in. And as generations change, there's different types of communication and different types of avenues that they like to receive information. So I just need to figure out how to make Salesforce videos that are like that. So we are at a good kind of halfway point right now where we'll go ahead and we'll get our session photo for sharing on social media. So this is your 1 minute warning of if you would like to get your videos on, please go ahead and start doing so. It's important because we always need to be branding. We will post on LinkedIn and Twitter tomorrow, and we will tag everyone in the photo. So if you only have your first name showing in Google Meet and you would like to be tagged, please feel free to go ahead now and include your full name in the chat window. I'll give everyone a few seconds to be able to do that. It makes it much easier for us to be able to tag you. Once you get your name added in there, we just asked if you could not post anything else in the chat because that little window will pop up and cover people's faces up. So one more time, if anyone would like to have their video on at this point, go ahead and do that. And all right, I think we've got I think the chat posts have slowed down a little bit. So I will give everyone a countdown. So 3, 2, 1. Okay. And I know that I always have wonderful backups that take pictures because I am notoriously really, really bad at taking them. So we'll have some backups for you all. Okay. So we are going to jump right back into questions. So Bradley, you brought up something that was really interesting that I want to dig into a little bit more. And this question, I'm going to have it go to M squared. So Mike and Megan, you all are going to get this question. You talked about transferable skills. A lot of our community is coming from a different background, whether that be, just straight from the military trying to transition into the Salesforce ecosystem, or whether it be they had a whole new career like I did. I worked in HR for years and years and years prior to jumping into the Salesforce ecosystem. How do you take some of those transferable skills and be able to use those skills and highlight them as you create content? Megan, go ahead. I'm going to call you first.
I was going to pass this to Mike if he wanted it. So I've been actually thinking about this a lot lately, mainly because I transitioned from being more on the tech consultant side to being a business analyst now. So a lot of times just being an active listener, good communication skills mixed with like the content, I think that's really coming into play right now. And I've been trying to make this post to share that when you think of the word tech, you think it's like the common computer science backgrounds, like very tech focused backgrounds. And I think some of the best people that I've seen come into the industry and really focus on the communication skills are people that have come from customer service backgrounds. I've worked at everywhere from like DSW, Friendly's, if you all remember that restaurant. I don't know if it's around anymore. But like places like that, Planet Fitness for a few years. And I think those communication skills and being able to talk to different people, understanding like businesses for Planet Fitness, right? Like you have to think about selling memberships. To Mike's point, selling really comes into play. So I think those type of characteristics really build you in the tech space. But yeah, I lost my train of thought there. Sorry, guys. But yeah, that's just where I see things really coming to play. And really, at the end of the day, those skills of customer service and what you bring from your background really play into how you succeed in your role moving forward. So I'm trying to figure that out. Just to kind of go into the previous question is like formulating questions. I'm going to pass it to Mike. I'm losing my train of thought. Sorry, guys. It
That's
happens.
generally how it works on anything I create. It's like, I'm going to pass it to Mike. I forgot what I was talking about. And we're just going to let Mike talk until he forgets what he's talking about. Then we'll pass it to Jen. I was actually looking up. So I did a podcast with David on this exact topic. And I did another podcast earlier. I want to say like 2020, 2021 with another military trailblazer who went from military to retail to Salesforce. And I'll start off by not talking about Salesforce. So for 20 years of my life, because I've been around for a while, I used to manage retail stores, and 100% the best people, I almost didn't even look at anything else on their resume, that I would hire were ex-military people like yourself and police officers. And the reason why is they were on time, they were professional, they picked everything up right away, and they worked their tails off. And I realize it's core to all of the core fundamental of what you're talking about, of the skill. And so I think people get wrapped up in a transferable skill, like, oh, I don't have any tech skills. Well, tell me this, in tech, and I'll bring Megan back in with this. As a consultant, do you juggle multiple demanding deadlines? Because if you do, that kind of sounds really similar to like a police officer that has to deal with multiple calls, or in the military, I don't know, if you're driving a tank, there's probably multiple levers and buttons you have to push and people hollering at you. And you're probably really good at making decisive decisions. So if you sit and really look at what are at the core, what did I do in the military, and boil those things down to like their core fundamental, what was the skill, that's where the transferability comes from. So you could transfer the skill from being in the military, or people that were civil servants, into tech. You could transfer that into the hospitality industry. You could transfer that anywhere, because if you think about, like, if you want to become an event planner, hey, if you managed multiple projects with demanding deadlines and had a high attention to detail, what does that sound like in the military? Because if an event planner wanted to get into the military, how would you advise them? And so the reverse also holds true. I think where people get caught up is they get too caught up in, well, but I don't know tech, or I don't know this. No, but you know the core fundamentals, and the rest of it you have to just rely on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you see a lot of people nodding their heads like, yes, yes. I think that tough part is, how do you get that foot in the door? Warren, I love how you talked about using content in a way to help kind of get your foot in the door and to show employers what you can do. Jennifer, I'd love to get your take on that. What are some ways that our community can use content creation to really kind of plus up their resume when they feel like, maybe it's soft? Like, how can I get my foot in the door and use content to help with that?
Trying to think of soft skills. I know I recommend for folks to, when they're trying to get their foot in the door, is just create a Salesforce environment, and then just take something that you do on a daily basis. Like, maybe you're interested in, like Mike, cars, and then you use Salesforce to build out some type of like car inventory or something like that. And then you can add that to your resume. Like, hey, I'm new, I don't have actual job skills, but hey, I took this and I built the Salesforce thing, and I have automation in there. Like, I took a problem and I solved it with Salesforce. And then from there, you could, use those communication skills, because you're presenting, right, what your end solution is, your problem is.
Yeah, awesome. And then it seems like it's a easy way for you to then be able to talk about it, right? Because then it feels real to you, because it's something that you did. And so creating that content. Warren, I'm going to give you the chance to answer this as well.
Yeah,
but how have you kind of done that, and what advice do you have for our community?
I love what Jen was talking about, because I kind of did it as well, especially starting out in my Salesforce career when I had no experience, or just a little bit of working experience, right? So taking those things that you are familiar with and converting them into something that you can showcase, because you can then speak very confidently about it. So for me, when I was, I think, doing my second, so I interned at a company that had Salesforce, graduated, then needed to go out and find my own job. So at that time, I loved movies, right? And I still love movies. So I created a database in Salesforce and the objects and everything to track and have ratings for all of the movies and things that I saw. And I built out some Visualforce pages, right? Like, back to dating myself a little bit. Built out Visualforce pages that could kind of control everything, and you could review it there, right? But when you're building those out, it helps to supplement the experience that you have with something that you can talk about very confidently that you've actually built, right? So it may not be that hard professional experience that you had working at a company, but it is experience nonetheless, because you broke down problems, you built something out, you had to do like either project management or other items to actually get this thing created. So it's about how can you take those elements and showcase that to the different employers that you're working with, so that you can build that case for yourself and show them that, you know, you have all of these skills, right? Everything's a transferable skill. You have all of these skills. You just want to showcase that to the different employers that you know are hiring or that you're going after. Yeah, I think that's the main piece for me, or something that helped me a lot, right? And then from the content side, the videos just added on top of that, because I could send them a video of me like doing something, or send them a post of me creating something. They're able to actually see me working on it and go through it from that standpoint. So they're not, it's not as much convincing that I needed to do, because they're already able to see what kind of work that I do, the work ethic. And when you're consistently creating, let's say, blog posts or posting on LinkedIn and that kind of stuff, that also can show through in the work ethic that you have.
Awesome. Thanks, Warren. So Megan, it looks like you found your train of thought. I'm going to give you a minute to be able to add anything else that you want before I go to the next question with Bradley.
Yeah, so thank you. I was just saying that I think that the soft skills are something that I see shine a lot more through interviews and what employers actually look for. Because I think the number one thing that I've heard from employers and just going through interviews is like, you can learn the tech. They always say this, you can learn the tech, but you can't learn the communication. You can't learn like leadership skills. And I work with so many people and also do the YouTube videos of helping people break into tech, that a lot of time when they hear the word tech, including myself, I'm like, oh, wait, I don't have those skills. But in reality, everything that we've done, whether it be customer service, military, construction, I met so many people that come in with valuable skills. We need to just make sure that we're not ignoring them, because those are the things that I think that employers are actually looking for. You can't teach, especially for military members, you can't teach those leadership skills. You can't teach people to be confident when they speak. Those are things that they've learned in their previous positions and they can take into the tech space where we kind of need it. So thank you. I remembered everything then.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to pull on this thread just a little bit more. Bradley, I'm going to come to you with this next question. So part of that kind of finding your next role, content creation, we've talked about that, but what about networking? So how can our community effectively network to really be able to make meaningful connections that could lead to their next opportunity?
Yeah, I would say that it's human connection, right? A lot of people, I think, say go network, and then we don't tell them how to network. We say like, oh, your network is your net worth, and it's who you know, not what you know. And then they're like, okay, well, how do I get to know someone? And think about this. It's all about human connection. And so if you spend your time applying for jobs, and the only way that you apply for jobs is by communicating with computer systems and platforms, the likelihood of you breaking into a new role is pretty slim. And the reason is these job application systems are massively broken. They were not built to withstand automated bots dropping 1,000 job applications on top of them the moment they were posted. And so a lot of people get discouraged because they go, what about these ATS systems that are going to count me out immediately? You're relying on a programmatic computer system to decide whether or not you're going to get in touch with a team to give you a chance to change your life, to change your career, to change the financial stability for your family going forward. Like, We have to escape this standard narrative that you have to apply for the job on LinkedIn, apply for the job on the company website, cross your fingers and pray that if you do that 100 times, finally something will happen for you. But a human is going to hire you. The ATS system will not hire you. LinkedIn will not hire you. The website will not hire you. None of that is going to make the decision on whether or not your life changes. A human is going to make the ultimate decision on this, okay? So go ahead and connect with the humans. That has to be part of your job search strategy. So when people ask me, you know, how many jobs do I need to apply for? How do I get around the ATS systems? All those kind of things. Human connection is the answer to almost every single problem when it comes to this. And content creation is a huge part of human connection. When someone comments, when someone engages, when someone likes, or even if they don't, even if they sit on the sidelines and watch you and you didn't even know they were watching, you are connecting with people by putting yourself out there. And I put in the chat, one of the biggest issues I see for people getting passed up on promotions, people getting passed up on job opportunities, people getting passed up on opportunities in general. I don't care if it was a girl or a boy you liked and they did not give you the attention you were looking for because you didn't let anyone know you were interested, right? So it's the same thing. If you're hoping to get a job, I had someone DM me recently. They said, I'm taking a more passive approach to trying to land a job. I'm hoping that the opportunity will come to me. But even if you believe, even if you follow this construct of like the universe having energy and the energy you put out is the energy that comes back, just putting yourself out there, just communicating even to the universe or to people or what have you, that you are looking for a job, that you are ready for a change, that you bring these skills to the table. If you're not communicating that, it's not going to happen. So I've done a lot of posts on LinkedIn, a lot of videos, a lot of newsletters, all this kind of, I constantly communicate because I think there might be one person who didn't hear it last time I mentioned it that might hear it today. And if you saw it for the 5th time and you're rolling your eyes and you're like, Brad, you say that all the time on LinkedIn, like find another narrative. It's because I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm talking to the person who hasn't heard it yet and they need to hear it. And so sometimes I get frustrated with content creators. Sometimes you have to click unfollow or don't show me these people's posts anymore. And you can do that to me and you're not going to hurt my feelings, because if you've been around the ecosystem, you've probably seen my post 100 times and it's probably not applicable to you anymore. And that's okay, because I'm still helping entry-level people, you know, find that space. So I would say all of that to say, make human connections, DM people. It's okay. Some people are going to say, I hate getting a DM. Don't DM me. That bothers me. That's okay. They can ignore you. They can ghost you. Take a hint. If you send a couple messages and they don't respond, take a hint. But that doesn't mean everybody doesn't want to hear from you and hates hearing from people personally. Okay. There are people out there who do want to hear from you. I'm one of them. Shoot me a DM. So when you're applying for jobs, don't go say, hey, give me a job. I want a job. I apply to your company. Can you get me in? That's not how we communicate, right? That's not what you would say. So make sure, again, I've got a lot of content on this. Make sure that you come with a human connection. That you say, hey, I look up to you. Hey, you're in a position where I wish I could be one day. How did you get there? Would you mind giving me a couple of tips? And then come back next week and say, man, by the way, I applied for a job at your company. And I was just thinking how great your content is on LinkedIn and how I'm aspiring to get where you are. And I just made this connection that I applied. Do you have any tips? Anyone I could talk to? Just some general guidance, and bridge the gap slowly. You don't have to rush in and say, give me what I want. So anyway, I could go on for days on this topic, but I hope that helps. Talk to humans, not computers.
Yeah, definitely. So we have a couple of questions in chat that I want to, hopefully we can get to before we close out for the day. So first one was from Mohammed. Balancing a job search with work and personal responsibilities can be overwhelming. Yes, agree. Definitely can, Mohammed. I think a lot of people understand and can empathize with that. How would you recommend dividing time between content creation, upskilling, job applications, networking, personal branding? Seems like a never-ending list for a lot of us to stay productive without burning out. Anyone want to take that? Okay, Warren, you were shaking your head. I'm going to give it to you.
Well, yeah, I was shaking because it is a lot, right? And I've been helping a lot of devs figure out their path through this, especially as they're, you know, getting PD1, starting to get confident in these items. And it can be a lot to start applying for jobs, doing the LinkedIn posts, just doing the rounds, especially as you're working either in tech already or in other types of jobs. So we totally get that. I think one of the main things that I try to tell people and people that come to me and ask for advice is figure out a cadence that works for you, right? So I can tell you what worked for me, but my life and the amount of free time that I have is completely separate from what you have and what you have going on. But I think overall, right, you want to find what's good for you, but also be consistent in what you're doing, right? A lot of people will start out, maybe they're putting 2 or 3 LinkedIn posts a day, really grinding it out for like a week or two, and they burn themselves out and they say, this doesn't work, when the week after or the month after is really what they're looking for to get that compounding effect with everything that you are doing, right? So I think that's consistency is key, and then finding the cadence that works for you. And I know it's like a very consultancy type of answer, like it depends for your specific situation, but I think you can find what really works for like your situation and what you're going through. But know that people are in your corner, right?
I know
Yeah.
I just got done rambling.
Real quick. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you don't have to do it all at once. That's a long list, and I can feel the overwhelm in it. And you're exactly right. It's overwhelm if you try to do everything. And like, I'm like a serial entrepreneur. So when you start a business, it can be that way too. Freelancers, I work with a lot of freelancers. It can be overwhelming to think like, I got to do this, that, all these things. You guys like searching for jobs. It is crazy how much you're expected to do. On top of, if you're new to this, you might be learning Trailhead for the first time, Salesforce for the first time, LinkedIn for the first time, and then now stack it on top. Are you using like a project management tool like Trello or whatever else? Like, it is overwhelming. You have to bite it, and you have to think about what's most meaningful right now. Here's one of the biggest mistakes I've seen with time management. You get your admin certification, and then there's a certification hamster wheel because the community, we do it, right? We create it for ourselves because everybody talks about certifications all the time. So what happens is if you're entry level, you start feeling that FOMO of like, am I not getting the next certification fast enough? Is a certification the difference maker? So I would say focus on your LinkedIn networking, connections, engaging with people, and your admin certification first. If you're early to this, focus on those 2 things. You don't have to do anything else right now. Don't worry about applying for jobs. A lot of people get distracted. They get burnt out studying for admin. They start applying for jobs, but it's too early. Focus on the networking, building the relationships, and the admin certification. Once you pass the admin certification, don't rush off and start on the next certification because that's a time commitment. So I would say rebalance your time now. The certification just became a diminishing marginal return on the next one constantly. Each one diminishing marginal return for entry level. Switch your time to not focusing on admin certification or platform app builder or business analyst or whatever next. Instead, switch over to continue networking. You have to do that until you are getting consistent interviews. And then move over to applying for jobs and networking at the same time and getting in your rhythm. Applying for jobs, job search strategy, the human connection is a skill. Start getting reps in with that skill, getting to the interviews. Once you're getting to the interviews, you can turn off all the LinkedIn networking engagement. Once you're getting consistent interviews, focus on job applications, interviewing, getting better at interviewing. And you can sort of balance that cadence of what's important at the time. But the biggest thing I see is the certification hamster wheel, where we never turn that off. And we end up with like 7 certifications before we land a job. And that took away from networking. It took away from human connections and job search strategy. It took away from interview prep and facilitating those skills.
Great advice, Bradley. So hopefully in the last minute, we can get Stacy's question answered. So I know a lot of people are feeling this and deal with this. How can you connect with humans if they don't respond? Especially the hiring team, recruiter, posting a job. They are, I think, inundated with people reaching out to them for the job they posted. So this is a challenge for a lot of our community. So what would, if you could give like a quick recommendation, anyone want to take that for Stacy?
I'll take it. I actually went through a layoff last year. I'm pretty vocal about that just 'cause I think it's important to share. But during that interview process, I think that, or not interview process, during that process of going through the layoff, I had to reach out to a ton of recruiters. Like that's when you really have to truly use your network. But sometimes they don't respond. Sometimes they respond and then don't respond. And sometimes you just don't hear anything back. So if you do get to that point, I think it truly does reflect an employer. And Stacey, my advice is you do get to that. Life does happen. I do say give people the benefit of the doubt. But if you do experience that, I think it's a direct reflection of the company. And personally, I wouldn't want to work for a company that isn't attentive, especially because there's recruiters that recruit in general from multiple companies, but recruiters for a specific, like their specific company. And if they're not showing engagement back at you, that's a reflection of the company. So just keep it moving. It's a game as well. You got to find out which company works for you and you'll eventually find it. Same thing goes for people when you reach out as well. Not everybody's going to want to sit down for a coffee chat. That's totally fine. But you'll find your people along the way. And Stacey, happy to talk to you offline if you have any other questions.
Yeah, and we always recommend if you can find a veteran that works at that company, reach out to them because it's oftentimes a lot easier to connect with those veterans as well. So we are a minute over. Before we close out, I would like to thank Bradley, Jennifer, Megan, Mike, Warren. Thank you so much. I mean, once again, just an amazing, amazing panel. This one is definitely going to be well watched on the YouTube channel. So it has been so awesome having you all here, getting your perspectives on the topics we discussed and making my job easy to get those transitions in. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Great stuff tonight.
Yeah, and with that, thank you everyone for attending, and we hope to see you next session. Have a great Wednesday evening.